some munching of the delicious food. We have delicious food from Mizrahi Grill. I know they're not here, but if you send them some love, anybody liking the food? Woo, go Mizrahi Grill. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a very special event. Fiverr is starting to host community events for people who are buyers, sellers from all over the world. So our counterparts in all sorts of different cities are having events just like these where they can meet a local doer, right? Who's seen them? Doers we trust, right? We're bringing local doers like Alex here to share all of their amazing insights about the awesome things they do. So the first thing I want to ask, who are some people that are buyers on Fiverr? Who loves buying stuff on Fiverr? Sellers, how about sellers? Who's doing both? Oh, we have a few both? Okay, so it's just me, okay. What about people who want to learn something new about it and they're figuring out what to do with it? Are some of those guys too? Oh, we have a lot of folks. Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Before we get started, what else can I say? Oh, we have to do something amazing. Somebody here helped us do some awesome stuff. We have to thank our event location sponsor, WeWork. So Edgar's back there. Let's send Edgar some love. Woo! Edgar, any plugs? And we have a lovely crew from WeWork also. My friend over there, I don't know your name, but he's amazing. Mohammed, woo! Thanks for helping us. Woo! If you saw, we have some of these, oh, not these booklets. We have some lovely booklets in the front, so you can grab some of those, some swag. Let's see, So, a little bit about who I am. I've been with the local Fiverr community for the last couple years, trying to help with some of these events. Was anyone at our Doers Across America event with Alex and I earlier last year? Thanks for coming back. So they're doing a lot more of those. Who am I? Shaily Hakimian. Thank you, Cynthia. I love you. And I sell all sorts of random goodies on Fiverr, from motivating people to keep doing what they do. I think you've seen some of that as a friend, right? And doing some social media goodness, some events, some teaching, and I love Fiverr. So I've had a lot of fun there. I've got to see the headquarters. I got to meet awesome folks like Alex, who actually happens to work at Fiverr. Oh my gosh, amazing. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, we want to share stories of local doers. So we have Alex here, and I'm going to talk about you. You have to tell me how accurate this description is of you. Okay. I may have looked all over your social media today and gotten some extra goodies.
The most accurate way to find out anything about a person.
Stalk social media. So I was going to say, so Alex's social media, I would say proceed with caution, good stuff. It is all delicious food that you cannot eat immediately. It is tempting, delicious food like crazy. So Alex is an influencer on Instagram. He's got 2 accounts that he is coordinating with pictures of food from all over Chicago that you didn't know existed, and it is all just beautifully delicious.
Well, it's gone now. I ate it, but I'm sure you can find something like it.
Exactly. So what is it? What are your accounts? It's Best Foods with Best Food Alex.
Best Food Alex
has over 24,000 followers on Instagram, and even crazier, you have let's see, Best Food Chicago, and that has I think almost 70,000 people following it. You're curating content from a lot of different people who are doing food, the food stuff like you do, and you're going to tell people a little bit more about that. It's incredible. You're a DePaul alumni. Any DePaul alumni in the house? Okay.
Yeah!
Love it, love it. And you describe what you do. Oh, you're from Ohio, is that right?
Yes.
Did I get that right? Any Ohio? No, we don't. Oh, we got one. We got 2. Yes, there we go.
Where are you
from?
Where are you from?
Cleveland.
Where?
East side of Cleveland. Wycliffe.
Where?
Wycliffe?
Lyndhurst.
Oh,
there you go.
You guys like cousins now?
Yeah.
Love it.
We were cousins before, we just didn't know.
Yeah, there you go. Besides being a front-end developer at Fiverr, you describe what you do as producing food porn? Is that accurate?
I'm Chicago's food porn director.
So tell these folks who didn't stalk your Instagram today, what is the crazy goodness that you do? And tell them a little bit of backstory of how you got to where you do. Maybe you have to start with why if you want to have one of those moments too.
Sure, yeah. I've worked in technology for quite a while. I actually started back in MySpace days, and I've kind of always I've had a freelance spirit, and when I was about 12, I was doing MySpace layouts for bands and stuff like that as I was learning HTML and CSS and kind of getting a feel for how the web worked and how things kind of fit together. So that means throughout middle school and high school, I really got into like picking up random clients through my parents, or like just
in high school. You were doing in high school.
Yeah, so in high school I really like dove into freelance, and I was making more than my parents were at the time, and they were kind of upset because I was like buying ridiculous, stupid things that any high schooler would when you're making money you shouldn't be making at that age. And so it was a really exciting time for the web, though, because we had a lot of freedom, and there was a lot of exploration of how to do things. Now a lot of websites kind of just look the same. We've kind of, I think, lost a lot of the creativity, and one of my goals is to bring that back. But in those days, we were just playing around with stuff and doing cool stuff. And so throughout high school, I was getting clients through family and through word of mouth, and just doing websites a lot. I came to school here in Chicago and really dove into the startup scene. Worked at a company called Raise before it was Raise, when it was called Coupon Trade, and I was one of the first few developers there.
The gift card selling company?
Yeah.
They sell gift cards, so you give
gift cards, so it's a gift card marketplace. Say your grandma gives you a Macy's gift card for Christmas, and you're like, I don't shop at Macy's. You can just sell it on their website. So that was one of my first jobs here. I moved on to Lightbank, which funded Groupon, and so I was a software developer there for a bit, and ended up landing at Fiverr. Now, throughout this process, I'm always kind of dabbling in other things. I think that's kind of a characteristic of a doer, is you never want like one revenue stream or just like one thing that you are fully reliant on. You're always kind of playing around with things and losing sleep over new interesting ideas.
What are some of the hustles that you've had? I don't know if we call them hustles. What are the things? What are some crazy adventures you've had? And if you have any Fiverr things that you've done that you want to plug, that are
I think
hilarious.
the two Fiverr gigs that I really work on right now, I write people's Tinder profiles, and I offer online dating consultations. So I get like Silicon Valley tech bros who are like, dude, why don't girls like me? And I kind of help them like figure out how to communicate with other human beings. So that's a really cool one. And then I've also really been getting into the crypto space lately. Cryptocurrency is kind of like Bitcoin and Ethereum, if you've heard of those. And so I proofread and write cryptocurrency white papers, because I really wanted to see what people were working on and like make money at the same time. And so reading people's white papers, you kind of get an idea of like what's going to hit the market before it does.
So white paper is in like showing the data, the proof of concept,
yeah,
kind of like what you have to show an investor to be like, hey, my company's legit, give me money.
Yeah, the biggest thing right now with cryptocurrencies is that people are launching their own cryptocurrencies. It's a pretty complicated and bubbly thing. A lot of them are pointless. There's really no like differentiators or value props for them. They're just trying to get in on their piece of the pie. But the idea is that in order to get any sort of investment, they have to produce a white paper, and that's kind of what the investors read to make investment decisions. And the investors are just throwing money at a ton of stuff, because if one of the things they throw money at turns out to be a Bitcoin or Ethereum, they made it, right? And so they're diversifying their portfolios like crazy, and it's kind of a huge bubble, a lot like we saw with the .com. So those are the two gigs that I'm really pushing on Fiverr, and I think those are really cool, fun side hustles that I've turned into.
So funny when you told me that. I was
yeah,
like, that's hilarious.
People always kind of giggle at the Tinder one, because like online dating has brought our culture kind of a whole new like set of steps before you ever get to even interact with the person you're dating. And a lot of people who might be great in person and great conversationalists and at a bar might suck at being able to like text somebody. And so being able to walk through all of those like volleying steps before you ever get to actually meet up with somebody is kind of a new art that we're still figuring out as a society. Like, how do we communicate that way? What are the most effective ways to like portray yourself and to listen to people and really connect in a digital space? So that's exciting stuff.
It's beautiful. Now I want to bounce off of that a little bit. So you kind of like a little bit of a freelancer vibe, even though you are working for Fiverr. You are doing a lot of different contracts, a lot of different places, whether it be Fiverr or some other adventures like the food blogging and going to different restaurants, visiting, writing reviews, and or pictures on Instagram. We have a huge audience of people who are doers, right? Have these things helped each other? Has one writing someone's Twitter profile helped with something else? Has it given you kind of more directions, or do you like having that diversified thing? And what can people in this room do to reflect off of that?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to succeed in any avenue is is to really find overlaps between your different interests and your different talents. And so if you know a lot about a certain thing and you kind of get involved in a different thing, where you find uniqueness and where you kind of stand out is when you start blending those together and you start kind of using what you learned in one space with another. And I think that's really happened a lot with food blogging and kind of having an Instagram following. Like I said, I've always been in technology, and I think one of the reasons why that exploded is because I understood how things might have worked behind the scenes of Instagram a little bit more.
Like, you know how their data works, how the hashtags
Yeah, I know
work.
that. I know
You can leverage
algorithmically.
it.
Yeah, and so if I know algorithmically how things are happening, and even though it's somewhat of a black box, it's not like Instagram, like
They're not
it's
revealing their code.
Yeah, they're not
anytime
like, it's not open source by any means, or you're like, oh, that makes sense. But like, if you understand the technology that's being used, and you kind of have an idea of maybe their thought process from a marketing standpoint, from a business standpoint, from a technology standpoint, and you're able to kind of pick and choose from those to develop your strategy, that's way more powerful than somebody who just goes in blindly, who doesn't have any sort of experience in another category.
I was gonna say, I always found it interesting when somebody knows 2 different universes or 3 different universes and combines them together to make something that only you uniquely know. I know you said you weren't always obsessed with food, but knowing you have this technology bit and getting into the food space and all these things, and using all these superpowers together, you said you can make it leverage to something bigger, right?
Yeah, and I think food's one of those things that it kind of brings us all together, right? Like, we all eat, unless
Who likes food?
Unless you're one of those Soylent people. But the thing
like
is
that
that food's one of the most powerful things in any sort of like marketing, or I mean, it's
culture too.
People love culture. It's such a huge part of our lives. I mean, I know I can't get any work done throughout the day until I've like figured out lunch. You know, like that's a big deal. So, you know, it's definitely, I think when you find things that appeal to a broad audience but have some sort of unique spin, and you're able to like I said, kind of blend it with some other knowledge points that you have, that I think that's kind of the right mix.
Interesting. Juicy. Now I want to ask you something. You built this following. You have people approaching you, come to this thing, come to that thing, right? You have a lot of people, probably brands want to say, hey, talk about my thing and we'll give you blah, 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 right? What was I going to say? I have a couple questions on this. Okay, I was going to ask you, now you have this following. Was there a moment where somebody shared you out, or a big influx of something came to your account? There's a big illusion, I think, in a lot of different spaces of the overnight success, or the overnight success took 20 years to build. I imagine there was a lot of build-up, but was there a moment that helps catapult you to a different place? And what can you tell the people that it doesn't, I'm sure it takes a lot more work than that.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that there was ever like a defining moment that was like, you know, like, oh, all of a sudden I'm huge on Instagram. Like, that didn't happen. I think there were a few key moments where I had like realizations on my own that it was growing. But back in, like, I've been doing this for about 4 years in reference to Instagram, and 4 years ago, influencer marketing didn't really exist as a term yet. It was so new. We were kind of finding our way anyway.
It means, if not everyone might know, if some of you hopefully do, it's when people have social media followings, and they can, companies and groups can capitalize on that energy by having someone cool like Alex be like, hey, this thing, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of moving digitally to a space where people were trusting larger media outlets less and less anyway. And the internet and social media was obviously connecting us in ways that we had never been connected before. So the market was rife for sort of new arms of marketing, obviously, of like real people with real faces who boost brands and products. And you kind of saw like things explode with celebrities. Celebrities were sometimes some of the first.
The Kardashian empire. Oh.
Right, and they're obvious. I hate when people like bash the Kardashians because
they did something incredible.
Because they're like brilliant business. People are like, what do they even do? Like they're some of the best doers. They have excellent business models. They're making more money than you can ever imagine, and they work hard. You know, those are some of the first influencers. But celebrities were some of the first influencers because they kind of already had a following. Right?
I mean, it's like what the commercials on TV, like oh, come be our like brand spokesperson, but now it's spread out and
it's totally new. Yeah, and so it opened up the door for like people like me who I'm not a celebrity. I've never been a celebrity to like for people to care where I eat for some reason, and that's a really cool thing because people trust that. There's a personal connection. You can't text Red Eye or send a direct message to Red Eye and be like, where should I eat dinner tonight? They're not going to respond. But you can send me a message and be like, I have a date tonight. It's something I don't know where to go. And now people have like a deeper connection with the media that they're interacting with, me. And that's a way more powerful marketing avenue than anything we've ever seen before. They can watch stories of me in my everyday life. I can post a story of me going to dinner right now, and people within a few seconds have like a real personal interaction with me as a person doing something. And like I said, that's a really cool thing. So
wow.
I think that's kind of the way that it's revolutionized the way that we think about marketing products and market specifically with what I do with food. Especially in a city like Chicago, where we have a very accessible and approachable food scene. There's other cities like LA, New York, and who have excellent food scenes, obviously, but you can't. I don't think it has any of the approachability and accessibility that our food scene does, and I think that's a really cool thing to be able to share.
It's beautiful. Now, I saw something, and I don't know if you know I'm going to bring this up, but I saw something very funny on your Instagram about somebody who approached you to promote their product, and I was Bimbo. Do you remember Bimbo?
Bimbo Bakeries.
What did they ask you to do? I want to know. I thought it was hilarious. I wanted to bring a bag of bread and take a selfie with you.
So I think this was kind of another defining moment for me, where like I got an email where a bakery company, very large like international bread company, they own a bunch of subsidiaries. It's called Brownberry bread here in our area, but
they reached out to you.
Yeah, they reach out to me.
Wild. Okay.
And yeah, all of the food stuff, I don't reach out to people. I go through my emails every day and I kind of pick where I'm going to eat. But they send an email. Normally I don't do as many promoted things on my personal account because I like to keep that separate from the one that like the money maker. And I want that to be way more authentic. Sorry.
Is that you? Oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
sorry guys. Yeah. Okay, so they reached out and they said they wanted to pay me to take a bread selfie. Just a selfie with bread. And I had this moment where I was like, if you had told me 4 years ago that the pinnacle of my success as a human being was going to be somebody paying me to post a picture on the internet of me with bread, I would have like laughed. I mean, that's like such a crazy thing. But for one, it's for charity. Like they give some of the money to charity, and then the winner of whoever does the best bread selfie also gets $10,000. So they wanted to like promote this contest. But it's like a really funny thing. Like one, their name is Bimbo Bakeries, which I thought was hysterical, and their PR agency is called 1,000 Heads. So 1,000 Heads is reaching out to me about Bimbo Bakeries to take a bread selfie for money. And I just like sat there and kind of laughed for a second and just pinched myself like what is this world, this world that I've fallen into, but people are taking bread selfies and they want to win. So it's like, it works, I mean, it's a cool thing.
What about now, it's a very delicate balance. I think a lot of people don't, like, they say, oh, I want to be a famous influencer, blah, 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 blah. But I imagine a lot of it comes down to the relationships you have with your people, your products. How do you manage the brand? And we talked about this a little bit. How do you manage serving whoever might be your client and then serving your audience and all this kind of stuff? And have people approached you in less than perfect ways? Have even regular people who are like, I want to be Insta famous reached out to you and be like, hey, can you post my stupid thing that I don't want to post? Is that happening to you?
Oh, yeah, I get some weird messages.
Yeah, what's some highlight reels for that? I already can tell this is hilarious. There's
this one guy, he would send me like direct messages of him just like completely shirtless in bed, just like talking. He would just go on rants about how to cook steak.
He's a teacher coaching.
Like he would go on and on about like medium rare steak versus medium steak, and like he was just like completely naked in his bed. Like we're talking like message after message after message. And like people just sending me like terrible pictures of their like things they've cooked that you like don't even know it's not recognizable, and they're just like, well, you post this, and it's like, it's cool because like people are so excited to like engage in that way, and you have to, you're nice about it. You're not like, that looks terrible, like you're not gonna tell somebody that, but and it feels good. Some of the weird brand things, like I've been approached about like adult products.
Ooh.
Like things that just like don't fit within brand. And I think the biggest thing, as any sort of business grows, right, is you have to be at a point where you can be selective, where you can say, I'm going to work with you because this is within brand, this is within something that like I'm passionate about, this is a project I can be excited about, versus this is something I'm doing just for like some money. And when you can like make that decision, that's a really cool place to be at. And so if you can get your brand and you can get your income to a certain point where you're at that comfort level, that's kind of the ultimate goal, and that's where you're going to be the happiest at what you're doing. And so it means like start thinking, even if you're not at that point yet, always be cognizant of what's within brand and what's not within brand. If you're a food account and somebody's like, will you go to this ballet and post about it, maybe think about it, because ballets can be fun, but like don't, like start recognizing what fits and what you want to represent. And that means for all your like whatever freelance projects you're working on, if you have a certain writing style and you excel at something, and somebody's like, well, you look over this other thing that has nothing to do with what you're good at, which is something you can do, just start thinking about it. Like be cognizant of that, and at some point, when you reach a comfort level, to be able to diverge from the things that don't make sense for you, don't do them. Don't say yes to everything. I think is a big thing.
You build up to a point where you can curate
Right.
kind of what you want your experience to be.
Yeah.
Now, some folks maybe are starting out and they want to create an account. Maybe they want to have a social media presence for whatever their freelance thing is. I know I do social media, but I don't really let that kind of go on all my platforms. But it's something to think about. Is there a way to, I know you have a website for yourself and your tech skills, and it's connected to all these other social media things. What does it look like on day 1, day 3, day 5? How consistent do you need to be to like at least figure out what's exciting and what you want to pursue? I mean, did you try a few things and they did not work out? Was there any like failed accounts that you created or something like that?
No, I think a lot of it's been fine tuning, right? So I wouldn't say that I've created any sort of like brands or accounts that just like failed. But I think when my food stuff first started, my account was just my name, and there was no distinct style. I hadn't like really figured out how to edit everything a certain way or what worked and what didn't. And I think over time, I think always, whatever sort of analytics or metrics you can have on what you're doing, do it.
Data.
Yeah, if you have data to say like people engage with this the best, or people enjoy this product the best, or people really like they were the happiest with this end
Did
result.
a post surprise you that you put out there and got like crazy traction that you never expected?
That still happens to me. Like people,
a weird one?
Yeah, there's just like, I think sometimes when you're in a certain category and you think from your perspective that something's really great, and then you post like Costco pizza and people like lose their shit over the pizza, and you're like, well, what about this like crudo, this like beautiful crudo or something that, and I think every day I'm still reminded of the fact that like you have to really think from the perspective of your followers, who maybe just after they get off work or something, they're craving something like greasy, or like you really have to think from the perspective of 30,000 people who are looking at what you produced, and not you as a foodie or you as a whatever you're good at.
Social media has to go to the face immediately if it works or doesn't.
Like I'll post a picture of like bread with like melted cheese on it, and people like lose it, and I'm like, and I just did it as like, here's an okay picture of something, I need to post something today.
College gourmet, that's what I see. College like cheese and bread.
I got like cheesy bread at a pizza place, and it like exploded, and you're like, what? But I think that's like, you're always going to have constant reminders of what your audience's perspective is, or what your customers' perspectives are, And sometimes those are gonna surprise you, and you have to be able to like put your pride away and be like, I am not doing this for myself necessarily. Like, you're doing it for yourself, but the whole end goal and the way that you're going to be successful is if the audience is happy and your customers are happy. And so you always have to think from their perspective. And I think that's why
you really must know your audience. You must be friends with those people. You must know them. Is that part of your strategy, is talking to them?
Oh yeah, I love having like, I'm one of those people who tries to respond to every DM
you care,
that I get, even if they're weird. Like, I still respond because I think that really sets you apart. I think when you're listening to people, they feel fulfilled in some way.
And are you getting data from every conversation that's feeding into what you do?
Yeah. I get feedback. For example, if I go somewhere and I didn't think it was the best, and I post a story, and somebody responds, this has happened, and they're like, how was the service when you weren't there? Because the service sucked when I went. That opens up a conversation for me to like learn about how somebody else's experience went at a certain place, and that's always good knowledge for me, because maybe I won't recommend that place next time, especially if a few people give me that same feedback. And they also feel like, oh, he posted a place I didn't really like, but he also like listened to me, so that kind of like makes it okay. You know, it makes me like, it still keeps that trust level, and trust is huge with your customers, with your followers, whoever you're sort of engaging with.
Awesome. I was going to say before, I have a couple more questions, but I do want to let you all know that in just a little bit we're going to have a Q&A. So hopefully you can all share your answers. If you want, you can even write them down on paper if you don't want to raise your hand. And we're going to call on some people in just a little bit. But I do have some questions about a different angle, about something that's unique about you. So Fiverr as a company has a lot of different offices around the world. Most people work in an office around other Fiverr employees. You are in a unique position that you work remotely for this company. It's something that some people dream, oh, I wish I could work from home, or I wish I could do that kind of thing. There's a lot of people that fantasize about it, but it's not always the easiest thing. It has its perks, but then there's things that are challenging. What would you say to people who might be interested in kind of having that kind of lifestyle? What are the ups and downs? I know we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, I think, well, for one, Fiverr is a great company because most employees are not remote, but we have that like very like freelancer spirit, obviously, because we cater to all of you. Like, you're our community and you're kind of part of Fiverr, and that's a really unique thing for a company to have. And so it's really cool to kind of, in that freelancer spirit, to be one of the remote workers at Fiverr. But I think the challenge with remote work is always, and you guys probably all know this, is communication. Over communicating is everything. Like, even if
in life in general.
Yeah, just if you think somebody might know something, it's still good to like confirm that. You know, and so working with my team based out of New York mostly, I'm always in communication with them through Slack throughout the day, because my
he was on it like before we even started this.
Like my presence with them on a team is all I have is like sending messages, you know, or being present with meetings, obviously, and video calls. But it's never good to assume, and it's always good to over communicate. And so that's true with any sort of remote work that you're doing, whether it's freelance work that you have to communicate with clients, or even if they send you an email or a message and you can't really get to all of it, just saying, I saw this, I'm working on something else, I'll get back to it. Like, just that immediate confirmation that like you're a person and you saw it. And that makes people feel great. Even if you're like not on time sometimes and you're running behind, or you're trying to keep up with everything. The reason people get frustrated is not that like you were a day late or you were a few hours late or whatever it was. Hopefully not more than that. But like, even if you're not always perfect in your delivery, if you're perfect in your communication, everything's okay.
There's trust there. If something happens, that
communication is people knowing that you know what's going on and you're kind of aware and you're present. That's what makes people happy in any sort of interaction.
I will say, here's a fun question before we get to the Q&A. I'm sure this was your dream as a child to do all of these things. Well, I don't know, maybe not. What did you want to be when you grew up as a kid? What's that rapid fire answer? What did you want to be when you were younger, and where are we now?
Of course, I went through all sorts of things throughout different age groups, but I think when I was really young, I wanted to be a comic book artist.
Oh, okay, artist too.
Yeah, I was very artistic as a kid because I just hadn't found technology yet. Like I wasn't, when I hit technology, it was the perfect marriage of like creativity with my very logical thinking, and I was able to build things, right? But before that, it was just very fine. It was fine art based because that's kind of all we had. So. Yeah, I wanted to be a comic book artist for a long time.
Now, I'll let you plead the fifth on this, but you posted something on Facebook today, and I really wanted to know what it was about. Do you know what I'm talking about? I heard something about a face wax story. Is that funny for our audiences to know about? I saw some funny post on Facebook today that there's some sort of face wax story, and something happened, and I'm like, what is the story? And then we're going to do some Q&A.
So I used to do stand-up comedy for a bit, too. This was like a thing I dabbled with, and one of the stories I would tell, I'm not going to do it as the bit because...
We got a microphone, go! No,
my stand-up comedy career didn't work out, so I'm just going to tell you the story.
I love it. You're a doer. You've tried all these different things.
So basically, long story short, I was dating somebody who was like very adamant that I always have a shaved face, like shoot, and not like facial hair. So I had like a date with her that night, and I like didn't feel like shaving, but it was a Sunday. And I had to like find a place to get my face shaved because I was like lazy and didn't want to do it. I don't think I had razors or something. But it was Sunday, so like all of the barbershops were closed. But the only place that I found was like this.
Oh, fancy.
It was like a waxing place. But it had a sign, it said like, we do shaves.
We all know, right?
It said, we do shaves. And I was like, that's what I need. You guys I need it, you have it. So I like go in, and I'm like, do you guys do shaves? And they're like, yeah, we do shaves. And I'm like, like this is the perfect relationship right now. So they start with a razor. I'm like, I get taken back to like some VIP room back there, and there's bottle service, and they're like,
bottle service, great.
And so they start with a razor, and I'm like, this is going well. This is exactly what I would imagine it to be. And I close my eyes. I like get comfortable, and I'm gonna take like a little sleep, and then all of a sudden, it's just hot wax like on my face, and I realize I've made a grave mistake. Like I have really messed up this time. And they were just like tugging and ripping, and my face was like sort of the touch for days, but it was very smooth. It was the best shave I've ever gotten. But yeah, that's how I advertised. I told my friends I was doing this tonight. I said, if you want to hear it, come here. Me talk about Fiverr and Instagram, and that one time I accidentally got a face wax.
I'm glad I asked, because I really wanted to know. I was like, this got me tempted. Like, I've already come.
That's a little story for you guys.
I love it. I'm glad we shared that. I'm glad. I asked him before, I'm like, can I pull stuff that I saw on your Facebook page? He's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, he doesn't know what's coming. So here we go.
I'm glad that's the thing that she pulled, to be honest. I'm sure if she had.
He's like popular. There's always photos of you with lots of people. I'm like amazed. I'm like.
I do. I have social interactions. I do.
A lot of social interactions, of course. So I want to open it up to some Q&A. So you have a question. I prefer questions over comments. I know there's a lot of personal stories in the house, so the more that we can get as many people excited about it, great. We only have a certain amount of time, so be as concise as possible, but I want to grab as many cool questions as we can. I know there's some people might want to ask about Fiverr, some of what it's been like on Fiverr, some people want to ask about your career, some people want to ask for more shenanigans stories, whatever it might be. If you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand, or you can...
Well, she's a great seller, too, on Fiverr. So any seller questions that you guys have, we both can try to take a stab.
I love Fiverr. I will say Fiverr has let me test out a lot of things, a lot of mini businesses. I'm like, could I do that? Do I want to do that for money? I don't know. But if you have some questions for it, I'll totally take it. I always have more nuggets here. Oh, yes, go for it. Absolutely.
How do you distinguish between like a legitimate company and something that maybe is shady or whatever? Because you get all these emails, you say, and you have to weed through them. And how do you actually know that maybe something is like, like a scam or something that's not really what it should be?
So how do you know that your companies that are reaching out to you to do some collaborations are legit?
I have a second question too.
And is that part? Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Two-part question. When you do advertise for companies, is it with the expectation that maybe you will be the next like celebrity spokesperson for the company and they become then rich and famous?
Well, you become the spokesperson for the companies that reach out to you. Ooh.
So anyway,
yeah, so I think finding legitimacy of the company is It depends. So with food things, generally speaking, if they're reaching out on behalf of a restaurant or something, that's easy to figure out, right? Because they'll name the restaurant, they'll kind of have certain like logistical things they'll mention, like let's pick a time to like have you come in, or here's sort of our idea for compensation, or what are your rates for compensation. If they mention that like they understand that this is a business relationship.
It's not like a phishing scam.
Right, like that. It's not like, oh, send us your bank information, or you know, like it's like come on in and enjoy this, and we'll figure out compensation. For products, and I do less products because of this reason, especially apps. I get so many emails for apps. Like, we have this new app, and we really need people to use the app. And it's another app that does what 400 other apps do. But we have a new logo. And, you know, those things I avoid. And not just because, like, I mean, if it's a unique idea, I might consider it. But for the most part, it's somebody who was like, people have made money with apps, and so I'm going to make one too. Like, it's not like they
like, I want to be a CEO. Let me raise the money for it.
And so I kind of avoid, I avoid those altogether. Products, if it's a product that like I can do a search online and like it makes sense and there's reviews and it looks okay and it looks like it would fit within my brand, like it's very bold and
You know, like Jared
delicious.
from Subway sandwich.
Oh, Jared from Subway.
Well, he's like a jail, I think.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
issue.
That was, ugh.
Yeah, he just started, like, I guess, blogging about his
Yeah.
weight loss, and then...
Right. Yeah, they picked up because
Yeah.
he was
So-
yeah. So
I lose weight from eating these
Do you feel like
sandwiches.
you
You
wanna
can
do this
too.
sort of thing? Like, to be, like, famous like him?
I think for right now, I wouldn't want
Get
to do
rich?
any sort of exclusive. He became an exclusive person for Subway, right? Like, he wasn't allowed to go to any other sandwich place and post about it after that.
Okay.
That worries me.
So you don't want to do that?
Yeah, I wouldn't
It's like
want to have any
pigeonhole.
sort of exclusive agreement where it's like, you have to act like you eat this for every meal. Like, that's not what I'm looking to do at all. I think what the most important thing for me is that I want to be a spokesperson for myself, right? I want to be a spokesperson for my brand, and then I can offer a lot to any brand that I work with, rather than picking one and it being such a mutually exclusive relationship that that's all I can put my attention into. I want to avoid that sort of
You got a
situation.
good enough offer from one company? How did you do with the bread? Did you win the contest?
Well, no. So the contest wasn't for me. I was doing it to promote their contest.
So for
So
regular
yeah.
people.
So they paid me a certain amount of money to do my post to promote that they were doing the contest. I don't think my post counts for the contest, unfortunately.
I mean, you won something, you got paid.
It was a pretty
That's
good
job.
one, though. It was a pretty good bread selfie, so maybe the outtakes were better because I had this idea I was gonna I was making grilled cheeses with the breads and doing like cheese pulls in front of my face,
Oh.
and I was like, I'm gonna put yolks inside, so I like put yolks inside of them, and then I was pulling it. All that happened is the yolks just like went
mess.
all over me. So the outtakes were great, but they didn't like those ones. So
Well, we might, yeah. Was there a question? Do we have a question over here?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
We've already used 4 voiceover people from Fiverr. Our problem with Fiverr is I have 12 books out. I'm writing 2 right now. I'm working on 3 animations. And sitting down on a Wednesday to go through this Fiverr, this person has a voice, this person is British, this person is Spanish. How do we develop a system where we can see a lot more of the voiceover people? We already have Fiverr here people that we use consistently. Now, all these projects that I'm working on, they're growing. We'll be doing 4 animations within a year. So how do we cut down without hiring another person to sit there and go through Fiverr after Fiverr? Because
How are you
most
sifting
of
through
them-
profiles? Is that what you're saying? How to find the next person that's going to be part of your team?
Right, so that we can listen to them and decide yes, no, because right now on the Fiverr site, you have a voiceover person that has a mic here, a mic there, and they give you the presentation, which is good. But do we really want to spend 8 hours searching for 37 people? Or how do we tailor it so that, because we have 4 that we use right now all the time, and we want to
You want to find
expand our
more.
reach.
So you're saying
Yeah.
based on the ones you already have, how do we maybe start making smarter suggestions based on what you're already
How
using?
do we find a wider variety
Mhm.
rather than sitting there going through person's file, this
Okay.
next talent's file, this next talent's file. We've used somebody from Great Britain.
You could hire a virtual assistant from Fiverr and have them do it for you.
Okay, so we didn't know that.
Right?
That's
I mean,
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
there's
no, that's
everything on
that's
there.
a cool thing. Whenever people kind of start asking questions like, especially logistical things, right, that are like going to take a little bit extra time. I mean, I've even thought about hiring assistants on Fiverr. We actually just
We were talking about this just
before,
now.
because sometimes it's like giving up control is a big thing for us. I think a lot of people can probably identify with this. It's like giving up control over your babies or what you've really poured a lot of
Who relates?
energy to
I can relate.
to somebody else to like figure out details is tough. I think it's a big thing to do. But even just like scheduling and picking, like being able to select new sellers and stuff like that, hiring people on Fiverr to do those things is kind of it's a win-win. You're still using Fiverr as a platform. They know how to use Fiverr as a platform, and then you're kind of taking some of that stress off of your shoulders.
I will say one of the gigs I was selling at one point that is no longer on Fiverr is how to navigate buying and selling gigs on Fiverr. And I had a lot of people that called me and asked me for questions. How do I find this? How do I do that? There is a way, what is it called, when you can post something that you want, let's say I'm looking for X, Y, and Z, and have people approach you.
Okay.
I've used that a little
Yeah.
bit. So people have to be looking actively to find you, so they can reach out to you, which is also a strategy. But you can
Yeah,
have
people
someone sit
bid
for
on
you.
it too. So you could say like, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z, and then people start bidding on that gig for you.
Well, what we're looking for is, like I said, the same caliber that we already have from Fiverr, but as we expand this imagination base, we're looking for something that somebody said, well, that's a little bit different. I've heard the Morgan Freeman types. I've heard
Yeah.
so-and-so
Well,
types.
you know what? Maybe this is a question you can talk to Alex afterwards, and we'll hold on to that because there's a good question. We have a lot of friends at the company too that can help you find more kind of targeted solutions too.
Yeah.
Right, because we
So,
need to cut that base
absolutely.
down, so my time is not all tied up.
I know, right?
And
I
apply the
appreciate you
voice
using
over-
it. I appreciate you using
Oh,
it
yeah,
and looking for awesome
we've
good
been happy
people.
with it for over a year.
Thank you.
I've grown.
Now I
God
do want to say I want to let some other folks ask some questions. So I'm really glad you're using us. But we can all touch base afterwards as well. Is there some
Sounds
other? We have some other questions from our awesome crew. Yes, my friend from Ohio.
Hi again.
Hey.
Any discussions on doing medical consultations with Fiverr?
Medical consultations, like people having medical appointments on Fiverr.
Well, they are legal consultations and just
Oh.
financial, so medical sort of thing.
That's a liability thing. I don't know. What do
Well,
you think?
so any sort of, I've had a lot of actually like freelance projects that have involved medical things, and you always deal with HIPAA, and it's a whole other animal.
Hospital volunteering, a lot of HIPAA. Oh my
Yeah, and the fact that we deal with so many different countries, that each of those countries has its own rules and regulations regarding that as well. So I think medical is such a beast. There hasn't been any discussion of anything like any specific categories. I'm sure it would be interesting at some point, but I think just the complications of the regulations and stuff would be a lot. That responsibility stuff.
Liability, scary,
Yeah.
scary thing.
Did you have similar concerns with legal consultations? Malpractice insurance? Like that?
Ooh.
I think there's not as much like regulation around how to do that digitally. So there's been a lot of laws passed for medical specific things in terms of like apps or websites and how you store that data and what sorts of servers they have to be on and how you have to like use that data. Like every step of that process has been regulated. Legal is, I think, a lot simpler. I think we're able to say in our terms certain things that say like that's not our responsibility. But medical wouldn't be as easy, because if you're storing any sort of information that people are giving willingly about medical conditions or anything like that, that's a whole other animal.
I have seen dietitians, I think, post on there, but I don't know if they can offer their services officially. I think you have to like offer unofficial because the liability is a mess.
I'm not sure.
I
I'm not
wouldn't
sure
touch
on
it
the
either.
details of that.
We have a question in the back. You should tell us your name too as well.
Deborah Bloch.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, how are you? What do you consider an influencer on social media like Instagram? Like, do you have to have a certain amount of followers?
Imagine it has to do with quality. So the question is,
Yeah.
at what level does make someone an influencer? Depends who's buying.
That's a really interesting
on
question at this
quality.
point, because we have a lot of trends right now with what's called micro-influencing. Brands and products are actually finding out that some of the smaller accounts actually have higher engagement with their followers, because
Engagement is in comments, likes, that you
right,
have a relationship with
engagement
their brand.
includes any sort of like commenting or liking, or like the quality of that interaction that you have with your followers in that relationship is sort of your engagement. And brands are finding out that some of the smaller accounts, I don't want to put a number on it, but anywhere from, several hundred to a few thousand, those smaller accounts kill it when they're used as a marketing arm, because people care even more. A lot of people might know at my size, like, oh yeah,
You're getting approached all the
he's
time.
probably
These
getting
guys
paid,
are probably not,
he's
right?
promoted. They kind of know that. But when it's like somebody that's like somebody you went to college with and they have 700 followers, you don't really know that. So that's a huge trend right now, is micro-influencing.
Oh, there's a platform I use called Influencer, which anybody can go on there. And it's everyday people like me. They send me beauty products in the mail, and I'm supposed to talk about it if I'd like to on there. So I've gotten makeup and stuff. So you don't have to be a famous person to do that. I have like 2,000 people on Facebook. It's not like crazy.
So to answer your question, I think it comes down to intention. What makes you an influencer is your intention with how you use your social media platforms, and if you, I think, put intention into what you're posting. If you're cognizant of the effect that what you post has on other people, and you have some sort of influence where people like care about what you're posting for whatever reason, whether it's just because they're family or friends or whatever your network is, and if they're receptive to your ideas and what you like to talk about, I'd say you're an influencer at this point. And I'd say there's value that you can offer brands and products from that angle.
It's a great question. Yes, a friend over here.
I have a question as a spokesperson. My name is Nate Martin.
Hi, Nate.
St. Louis, Michigan. And
Michigan.
as a spokesperson, I get requests to receive products or to do a demonstration of an app.
Mm-hmm.
And for device security, when it comes to applications, or for to the extreme, worries about smuggling or what have you, and receiving a package from a foreign country, I just shut the door on that. So
Yeah.
do you have any guidelines as far as security is concerned for specifically those two things?
I haven't really had to deal with. Generally I avoid the apps. It just doesn't really fit with what I want to do. And when I don't avoid them, they tend to be large enough apps that there's a local one called Eat Purely that's like a very large. They're pretty large now, and I was able to trust that was a good relationship. I'd say at this point, if the app doesn't seem to have any value, and it's not really, you can't really find a lot about it online, and if you look at what it needs, what it requires when you download it, what sort of information it requires you to give it, and that's not very clear, it doesn't look great, use common sense. I think that's good to kind of avoid those, honestly. As far as smuggling or weird things coming in the mail, I haven't really dealt with that. I did get a shipment of live lobsters one time that I didn't know I was getting. I got back to my building and my door person was like, "Oh yeah, your lobsters are here," and I was like, "My what?" They sent me 24 live lobsters, and I was like, "What am I gonna do with these lobsters?"
That sounds like a video I want to watch.
So I posted a story. I was like, "Does anybody want lobsters?" And so then a bunch of people showed up at my door and I gave them lobsters.
This was they were trying to promote you, and they sent you lobsters. Is that
Yeah,
what
but they
it
didn't
was?
tell me. I didn't know I was getting them. They just showed
That's a
up.
great story.
So,
I
yeah.
love that. I love that, lobsters. Oh, we have our friend in the back. Yes, you can say your name. And
Hi, Angie.
Hi, Angie.
My question also is kind of a social media related question. I've been noticing a lot of influencers with larger audiences love contests, and I just kind of wanted to get your perspective on that, because you talk a lot about trust, and that is a big thing of it's a weird world. We're like, trust me, I'm a complete stranger, I know things. That's so weird. But then you notice these contests, and how, what's your thought on that? And do you think that is a way that kind of violates that trust in a way? Because I know that you're doing that to get my
Ooh,
Yeah,
contests.
so I actually, this is funny, I literally just posted a contest before this.
Yours is trustworthy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right, we love Alex, right?
Okay, so one thing that I want to note is that the Federal Trade Commission has a lot of new laws about like letting people know when something's promoted.
Hashtag ad, hashtag promoted.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest. Like I follow it as much as I can, but like some things it's even a gray area of like what's promoted and what's not promoted, right? Like sometimes do you do it if it's like you just got a free meal, or like do you do it if it was definitely money? So what I do, if it was definitely money involved or some sort of gift card or something, I definitely say that it was like ad or promoted or sponsored. In reference to giveaways are definitely a super powerful way to get like a ton of attention right away, and you get a ton of followers and you get a bunch of stuff from it. Yeah. However, you're still a human making human decisions on which giveaways you're gonna do. I don't say yes to every giveaway that I get because I don't think it's always stuff that like I want to, like if some fake sugar company's like, here, give your followers fake sugar, they're like, no, that causes cancer. That sounds disgusting. Like I'm not like into that, you know.
They're buying into you.
It doesn't fit. I'm not a health blogger. It's not going to fit in my brand. Like sometimes I feel like the brands really need to like look at my page and it's like clearly not a health page. So they're like, well, it's like I'm not going to give away any sort of
Power
like,
bars?
Yeah, I'm not going to give away some sort of like granola bar that has like so much protein or I don't care. So like I'm still making human decisions that make sense for my following and make sense for my brand, and I think that's the biggest thing at the end of the day, is if I'm doing a giveaway, I made that decision to say, this is something that I think is a good product, and I said yes to, so I don't think that violates trust in any way. Do people maybe not always realize that it has the effect that it has on them? That's probably true, but I think if I'm doing a good thing, if it's a good product, I think that's okay. I think it's okay if people don't always know they're being advertised to. I think it's fine. I don't think people need to know they're being advertised to all the time because they're just people. They're going to make decisions too. Like, you know, they're going to look at a product, they're going to either like it or not like it, and based on that data, I'm going to make decisions too. And it's that ongoing relationship of data and decisions and I think we have the best time in history for advertising because it's personalized. It makes sense for people. They'll go on Facebook and they'll see things that were based on things they like talked about yesterday.
Oh my god, it's so
but they
creepy.
like talked about it yesterday, so it's like it makes sense. Like, why is that such a bad thing? Like they were thinking about something and talking about something, so why not advertise to them?
You said something really interesting before the pre-panel that we had, the pre-discussion, is that it's all about like integrity and trust, and that some people are probably like, oh, they're giving me money. Like who was that famous? Oh gosh, I wish I remember their name. How about that? What's that famous person that got famous?
Oh, how about that?
Remember that? How about that? What's that video? Anyway,
Yeah.
She got super famous, and she was
Catch,
like, oh,
catch me outside.
Catch me outside, right? Like she was.
That was my
doing all these-
ringtone for a while, so I'm gonna just let
Right? She was like, oh, look at how much money I'm making.
Right.
I don't know how much integrity she had in her brand. I don't know if she's doing that well right now, but I imagine I don't know who's really following that, right? But the
Probably doing
integrity you
super well.
have, the relationships you build today, I imagine are going to make you stronger in the future. Whether Instagram is the thing in 10 years or whatever, the relationships and the integrity you have probably play into like what your future is going to be. Is that the relationship you're building with your audience is the trust that can kind of last, or at least can build
Right.
for the future.
I think people know that I get paid for things sometimes, and they know that I probably got free
But you
food sometimes.
care.
But I still care about what I'm putting out.
You
And
care.
I think people have to trust that.
I
think
love
that's
that.
important.
Now I know we had a question that was over here in the hat. What's your name? Tell us.
Lynette.
Hi, Lynette.
So mine's more Instagram focused as well. Do you believe more in quantity or quality of content?
Both. So
Oh.
I used to, in the beginning, we were just like, let's post as much as we can all the time. And even if it was like bad pictures, even if it was dark or blurry, or we're like, we gotta post all the time. But then we found out that like that maybe doesn't work. That in order to have like a super great growth, when people hit your page and your Instagram or whatever social media platform you have, and whatever they see in that like one hit, that's what's going to be a deciding factor if they follow you or not.
It's gotta be great all the time.
And so if there's like a couple things that stand out as being gross or bad or whatever, people are going to leave. They're just gonna go somewhere else. So, like, quality is huge. Consistency of quality is huge, but you still have to post all the time. So, what I like to do, and this, like, if I don't go somewhere for a night or a day, I use a picture that I might have taken like a while ago, and I still post. But like, I try to take as much good content in whatever setting I'm in, so that I have like backup good content. Don't ever post bad content just for the sake of posting, but try to have good content to post all the time.
You queue it up so you're safe no matter what.
Queue it up.
That's great. That's a good one for social media in general.
And I know that's like easier said than done. Of like sometimes you're gonna look at what you have to post and you're like, some of these aren't great. And I think it's a learning experience of like what's gonna work and what doesn't with your audience.
It will tell you.
Try to build up good content.
That's a great answer.
Don't play all your cards at once. Like if you have like 4 good pictures, post one now and then kind of save them.
And then by that time, hopefully you'll have some good stuff. Some other questions. We have a few more questions we can take. Yes. Oh, I have 2 questions. Oh man, yes. Come on.
I have a question, just kind of, I guess, in a general sense about when you're starting out in a business or entrepreneurial and so forth. I kind of struggle with this, and I think a lot of people do, where they may not have a skill set in something they know is a component of what they need to accomplish. How do you determine or decide whether you want to delegate that task to somebody else and pay them to do it, so that you can move forward in the direction you're already maybe an expert in, versus teaching yourself to do something so that you do know it down the road, but then obviously taking time to learn it while you need to get it.
That's a big one. Spending money to get it done with an expert, or trying to figure it out and taking potentially a lot longer to figure it out. That is one I've been asking too. Great question.
I think so you have to really know yourself and know what's within your ability to learn and do really well. So sometimes there's stuff I don't know, but like I know because of my current skill set or what I'm good at or how I think, that like if I put some quality time into it, I could really learn it. And those things, if I think I can be really good at it, I'll just tackle it. But the things that like I know I'm not going to be really good at, those are delegations. Those are things that like somebody else can really do. And so like if you're like, I'm trying to think of an example of something. I honestly, one of my weaknesses is delegation. I try to do everything myself.
You delegate delegation to someone else.
Yeah, I need to delegate my delegation. Like I said, I think I have trouble trusting other people with the way I want to do something. And I think that's something I need to work on, is like being able to delegate. Like I'm really bad at like remembering to put stuff in my calendar. Like I'll even like think about it, like I should put this on my calendar.
You were telling me this earlier.
It would
save you so much time if someone did that for you.
I barely made it here. No, I'm just kidding. I just don't put stuff on my calendar. And then like that morning, I'll like wake up and I spend a lot of time like figuring out that day, making sure I didn't forget anything. And so like I'm never like late or I don't show up to things, but like I spend a lot of extra time later.
It'd be worth investing in.
I spend a lot of time later not like doing it, and I'm just not good at that. And so that's something I should probably delegate.
We have homework for you now, Alex.
Yeah. So think about the things that you're good at, and the things that you could be good at. And if there are things that you could be good at, do them. If they're not, delegate.
There you go. That's a good answer. Now, my friend in the blue, you had a question as well. This might be one of our last questions.
I think it's been answered.
Oh. Well, we do have some room for a few last-minute questions. Oh, yes, my new friend. Yes, hello. What's your name?
My name is Rain,
Hi.
and just on Instagram, if you were to start from scratch today, would you do anything differently than you did? And what would be like the first 3 things you would do?
Ooh, great question. This would be a great
I would
one.
establish my brand right away. So a lot of like what I did was learning. I mean, it was learning process of like what I wanted to represent and who I wanted to kind of be. And I didn't, back then and 4 years ago, I wasn't thinking too much about brand or marketing or any of that. I really wasn't. My background was technology, so it kind of like, you know, and so I learned a lot through that process, and I think I would establish brand, number 1. Number 2, I think I would establish quality. I think, like I said, kind of I hinted at the fact that I was just posting as much as I could. I wasn't paying attention to the quality of everything. And just like posting good stuff versus bad stuff is huge. So establish brand, establish quality, and then
I like that.
that's a tough question. Like what I would do differently. I think Two, I like understand what base those two things off of what other people are doing. Don't do exactly what other people are doing. It's so many people start Instagram, they're like, oh, I saw this person doing this thing on Instagram, so I'm gonna try to do it.
It's already been done.
There's already 400 people. Like right now, if any of you want to start an Instagram account that's like super unique, get into goat yoga. I swear to God.
What? Goat yoga?
Goat yoga. Right now. You heard it here. Goat yoga. Like find
the untapped market, right? Because your space wasn't tapped.
This is guys, have you seen goat
Right?
yoga?
Yeah.
There's goats jumping on people. It's yoga. But there's like not a lot of like there's some accounts for it, but like it hasn't exploded. So anyway, find something that like other people kind of some people are finding out about, and just like attack it really well. Because a lot of the like new emerging concepts don't have high quality yet because they're so new. So if
you nail it, you'll do well.
nail the high quality right out the gate, you'll explode. So.
That's
yeah.
a juicy one.
That's a juicy
Now
one.
we're about to wrap up, and I want to give you a chance to say one last thing before I close this officially and give them some last nuggets. Is there some last minute wisdom you want to share? Something that you was on the tip of your tongue and you couldn't share? A little nugget? Some inspiration? No pressure. Inspire everybody even more.
Trying to think. I think I kind of hit all the.
Any quotes that you live by? One short quote that you live by? Oh man, I made this too hard.
Dude, I had a 2 Chainz quote that I was gonna share, but I totally forgot it.
3, 2, 1.
2 Chainz.
2 Chainz. Hashtag 2 Chainz. You'll think about it, and I will tell everybody the last few things.
Yeah.
We have been here as part of the national, international Fiverr community meetups, where Fiverr is either traveling to cities around the country and having amazing presentations like this. They're happening all over the country right now. We are part of this new launch of this initiative. We're getting all the local doers to come out. We are both around. We're going to stick around for a while. Both of us can be reached. It's Best Food Alex on Instagram and your million other platforms, alexjewell.com. Is that right?
Yeah, and you can find me on LinkedIn too. LinkedIn
LinkedIn.
is a very good professional platform. You can add me on Facebook too. Like my Facebook's not really a
great.
personal page anymore. It's sort of an extension of my brand. I'm not like a person. So.
We brought an alien to our panel. No, I'm just kidding. He's a real person. I love it.
When people eventually come to know you, it's because they're looking up a product or a company first, and then it'll bring all these sites for them to explore, and you may be one of them.
Yeah, so a lot of people find me through, like, say they're looking up a restaurant in Chicago, and then they kind of look at the pictures on Instagram, or they'll, like, look up the location on Instagram. So that's how a lot of people find me through Instagram. Otherwise, it's really through networking. I mean, it's through things like
You have a
this,
lot
like,
of friends. You're a good connector.
It's all about, like, events and, like, making an impact on people.
Don't even know you yet. They're basically looking up a product or a company.
Discoverability.
Understand better, or go to a restaurant, and so then they find you.
Right.
Like within other websites. Things like that.
Right. Yeah, there's been a lot of, like, blog posts that feature me, like, 10 Instagrammers you should follow or lists, that people put together. So.
Now, I know there's some burning questions. I see some more hands coming up. We will stick around. We will answer your questions both online and in person. I want to thank you, Alex, for your time and contributions to all this goodness. So go, Alex. Thanks for being here. I also want to thank all of you for coming and for helping us devour some of the delicious food that's here. And before you go to your next adventure, and before you think we work further time and space, Alex and I would like to do some sort of super selfie that if you consent to a photo, we would love to take a photo with you, maybe in this background image, so we can share this with all the doers across the country. Thank you so much for coming, and stick around for our photo. Here we go. Hello. There we go. I love this. We're getting a nice shot of everybody. Are you going to take the photo?